Exposure to carbon monoxide and cyanide will present several signs and symptoms, and it can be very difficult to distinguish between the two. This is because both poisons prevent the body from using oxygen, each in its own unique way. Both poisons can cause confusion, nausea, impaired judgment, loss of consciousness, low blood pressure, seizures, and death. Cyanide exposures can cause rapid breathing initially, then difficult or very slow breathing with progressive exposure, slow or fast heartbeat, giddiness, sweating, and unresponsive pupils. Rapid breathing and sweating are part of the job. If you suspect a smoke-related cyanide exposure has occurred, you have to make a judgment call based on your level of physical activity. Unresponsive pupils and giddiness are good indicators of an acute cyanide exposure. A significant concentrated exposure can quickly result in unconsciousness, convulsions, and death. If you or someone you are working with experiences any of these symptoms, seek medical attention immediately. In some cases, blood samples might need to be drawn to assess the levels of cyanide and/or carbon monoxide in the body. In some cases, treatment may also be required.
Lesson 2. Think about it this way. Cyanide kills your organs, carbon monoxide kills your blood, and this process can happen in a matter of seconds. Nobody is immune, whether you are a firefighter or a civilian. In fact, someone in great physical shape is in even more danger. A healthy cardiovascular system transports oxygen more efficiently throughout the body. Likewise, it will transport carbon monoxide and cyanide more efficiently. Keep in mind that just because you walk off the scene doesn't mean carbon monoxide and cyanide didn't affect you. These toxins also have devastating cumulative long-term effects.
Over a long period of time, firefighters exposed to low levels of cyanide and carbon monoxide in fire smoke suffer chronic problems at rates much higher than the general public. Your blood, brain, heart, and other organs are left with a wake of damaged and destroyed tissues and cells which build up over time. Dead cells in the heart and brain do not regenerate. Instead, they become connective tissue, much like a tendon or a ligament. Over time, this diminishes the heart's contractile properties and its ability to function effectively. This damage shows increased instances of various painful and dangerous conditions including weakness, chronic lung problems, heart disease, heart attack, stroke, and brain damage, possibly leading to dementia.
So you've learned how hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide kill you or slowly disable you from performing the job. Now let's learn how to prevent it.
There are a few things you can do to minimize your exposure to toxic gases and smoke. Although there is no practical way to completely eliminate smoke exposure, the key is to minimize it. Here are a few things that you can do. SCBA bottle pressure. This starts in the firehouse. Your SCBA air pressure is the key to airtime longevity. When conducting your SCBA check, what does your bottle pressure read? Is the bottle full? Look at it this way. If you were going on a long trip with your vehicle, you wouldn't start off with a 3/4 tank of gas. Use common sense and make sure your air bottle is full. And if it isn't, take the 2 minutes to replace it with a full one. Realize that every 100 psi in a 4.5 half-hour bottle equals approximately 8 to 12 breaths of air. SCBA training. Training with SCBA typically includes everything except how to breathe efficiently. It's common to think breathing properly with SCBA comes naturally, but that's not usually the case. It's important to be familiar with individual limitations. There are various breathing methods that have been developed, and with research and comparison, you can see what works best for you. One breathing method is the Riley emergency breathing technique, otherwise known as the humming method. By humming during exhalations, the average firefighter can extend airtime by over 25%. Practice different breathing methods during massed confidence training. It's critical to know your breathing limitations in order to know when to exit before your low air alarm activates. Knowing how much breathing time you have during training will prove vital when it's for real. Donning SCBA at structure fires. Thinking that you'll conserve air by donning your SCBA close to the door is a misconception. Doing so can be very taxing to your cardiovascular system. Levels of carbon monoxide alone can be in excess of 1,300 parts per million, and that's not in direct smoke. Taking the precaution of donning SCBA low and just a few more feet away from the door can be helpful to reduce exposure to toxic gases. Metering. We need to better understand what meters are telling us when it comes to an immediately dangerous to life and health situation, or IDLH. Each IDLH applies to a specific toxin by itself. Combining any number of toxic gases such as carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide, which are present at all structure fires, is an IDLH no matter what the reading. Know that when carbon monoxide is detected during overhaul, it's not alone. There are many other toxins present. Another consideration is for meters to have a hydrogen cyanide sensor. You can't practically meter for all kinds of toxins. However, now that we know the synergistic effects of carbon monoxide and cyanide when combined, a meter that can detect both toxins should be considered. Remember, thorough metering should be continuously conducted during overhaul operations. It's important that firefighters and investigators continue metering anytime personnel are in the structure. This brings us to wearing SCBA during overhaul. We've all heard this before, but besides the obvious, here are a few other things to consider. We know there's a high mortality rate for firefighters in line-of-duty deaths, and over 44% of these line-of-duty fatalities are the result of heart attacks. New studies indicate that due to the nature of our job, we have a shortened life expectancy compared to other occupations. Because of our exposure to various carcinogens found in smoke, we are at greater risk for developing several types of cancer. With these things in mind, it's important to wear your SCBA when toxins are present. There is no doubt that acute exposures are a concern, but chronic exposure with associated symptoms is often ignored. Practicing good habits when you're 25 can lessen the risks of developing chronic conditions when you get older. Over the long haul, wearing your SCBA when you're supposed to is a pretty good idea.